Hi everybody! Well, I go to edit this video and I have no intro, so here it is. Well, I found something that's really easy to find and can sell for quite a bit of money, so let's dive in and find out what it is. Do you like my comfy chair? Okay, so here is a big box of patterns, and I got this from Backyard Trucker, and it's just like a big box of patterns, and I actually went to go take this to a local auction, and I thought, all these patterns in here, see how many there are? There's probably double this because I've listed a bunch, and then I'm also working on more. So I thought, instead of selling these at local auction, can you imagine $10 times however many are in here times 2? And I thought, let's get these listed. And one even sold right away. There's just different stuff in here. It's simplicity, and there's some other little interesting goodies in here. So I've been having fun listing these. I wait until I'm talking on the phone and then I just get it done. So I'm getting 2 things done at once. Sometimes people say, are you listening? So let's do a little bit of research here to see what some of these have sold for. So I am under the research tab, and if you have an eBay store, this is where the research tab is right here. And you can go to Terra Peak Research or just click it. I just clicked it. I always go 2 years. So this sold for $1,450. And this is a lot of simplicity. McCall's Buttrick Sewing Patterns. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Wait a minute. Actually, I can see that. I think I have some of those in there. Huh. Now maybe I should just lot these up. I don't know. I don't understand why they sold for so much money. Wow. So I listed mine for $9.99. Maybe I should let them up. I don't know. Wow. That's just strange. Okay, and this sold for $1,000, and this is Sewing Patterns, lot of 700 plus uncut patterns. Berta. I've never heard of that. Okay, is it Butterick or Buttrick? I guess I always called it Buttrick. Buttrick. This sold for $686. Wow, look at this. Here is a vintage 1920s to 40s sewing patterns lot, Art Deco. And there's all different brands. You've got the Butterick, the McCall's, and the Vogue size 14. That's really cool. Look at that. I love those styles. I love the 20 through the 40s. I think that's definitely my favorite. I love a little bit of the 50s too. Oh my goodness. This would be cool to have, wouldn't it? But that sells for quite a bit of money. And I see these all over the place. Sometimes I even see estates throwing them in the trash. So you could probably get this for a really good deal somewhere. Okay, this one sold for $620, and it's kind of the same thing, the 20s to the 50s. Sewing patterns, lot of 40 plus. And each one of these patterns has patterns in them, if that makes sense. So that's probably, I don't know if they have 40 there, but that's probably where maybe they get these big numbers. But I just think these are really interesting. I'm actually thinking about lotting mine up now. Now that I'm seeing this, that might actually be a good idea. This was $543, and this is a private listing. Vogue Vintage Sewing Lot. So this, it's just a couple of them, and that one sold for big money too. Okay, and this was $500, and here's a mixed lot. Now some of these are all the same sewing patterns, and here they give all the different kinds. So I don't know why they would have sold. I mean, they made a lot of money off that, but I don't know. I don't think I would have taken them and just sold them. I think I would have divided like the certain ones up, like one of each in a different lot. $490. Here's 65 vintage sewing patterns. And these are from the 40s through the 60s. This is really interesting. This is a vintage sewing patterns lot, 40 plus, 20s, 30s, 40s, and more, Hollywood, etc. And I'm sure there's people in Hollywood that actually buy patterns, you know, off of eBay for movies and things like that. Okay, and here's over 200 vintage sewing patterns from 1960 to 1970. That's kind of what I've got. That's interesting, right? So that sold for $400. Okay, and then you start getting into the onesie twosies. Like this one sold for $395. The Golden Rule Pattern Making System sewing patterns. Okay, well that's cool. Pretty. A Night on the Town. This sold for $394. This is a vintage 50s American designer sewing pattern. Claire McCardle dress bust 34. You see a lot of that pattern from the 50s. $383. Here's a vintage antique 1930s advanced sewing pattern book catalog, June 1934. Oh, those are cool. So you can kind of see what all the patterns are and order them, or they might have them or whatnot. I remember going to the store and looking through these. $371. Here's a vintage sewing patterns, women's simplicity and advance. These definitely look vintage. They look like the 50s, I think. Those are cool. I even like the design on them. The designs on the front, if they're well taken care of, they could be very colorful yet. So it's kind of neat to see. And this sold for $337, and this is another pattern book. So keep your eye out for those pattern books. I actually would have never even thought about this. This is a vintage antique 1930s Simplicity Sewing Pattern Book. Catalog December 1938. That's so cool. I never thought these would be worth any money. I really, really didn't. I surprise myself when I get things sometime. So thank you, Andy, for these patterns. I think I'm going to unlist mine and lot them up and see what happens. Now, some of these patterns by themselves I'm seeing are worth quite a bit of money. This one sold for $304, and this is from the 50s. So maybe if you have one from like the 50s, back that far, you know, back about 80 years or so, maybe you want to save that and put that separately in a lot. But maybe from the 90s and the 80s and stuff, you might want to just lot those up. And I think that's what I'm going to do. If I have something very old, I'm going to just list piece by piece. So this is actually going to be fun. I'm kind of excited. This one sold for $270, and here's a rare vintage 1940s Hollywood sewing pattern. And oh, they got, is that Scarlett O'Hara? Let's see. Oh yeah, Gone with the Wind. So you can watch Gone with the Wind, and then you can look like Gone with the Wind. And this is $244. And this is a vintage 20 McCall sewing pattern. Ladies, Mrs. Evening, and a coat tee. Art Deco. Yes, it's very Art Deco. So that's my little research. I definitely learned something new myself as I'm going through this. And I'm going to list my patterns and maybe make some different sections of patterns and then list them that way in lots. So all right, well, I hope you learned something new. I learned something new. Now I'm going to show you one that I'm shipping. Okay, so here's a pattern I just sold for $5. And if you just think $5 times like a big box of patterns, if you can find them, is actually quite a profit. Okay, so I wrapped this in tissue paper. I've got these cute little gnomes for St. Patty's Day coming up. I'm going to put my thank you card in there. It just says thank you and all that good stuff. And everybody needs a little sparkle, so we'll put that in there. Okay, secured with a sticker. Isn't that cute? Okay, so this will be on its way. Wrap this, and this is going ground. And I'm going to also put it in this plastic bag and a poly mailer just to make sure it doesn't get wet. Because it's definitely raining here in Michigan today for sure. Going for a nice walk, and the weather really changed. I'm gonna go head back up. There, a tree just actually fell. So the weather changed before I could even get a video uploaded. Oh dear, my office is actually stuck in shamrock time. Oh no. Shoot. Okay, we can fix this. We can fix this, right? Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. Yay! It's Easter time. Okay, everybody, have an awesome day. Thank you so much for joining. We're gonna get back inside before more trees fall. Come on, Susan.